Caleb Hart sat in the dark, listening to the soft breathing of his 10-year-old twins. June was curled up with her sketchbook, and Olly clutched a worn-out copy of Hatchet, the story of a boy surviving alone in the wilderness. Their father had nothing left except an old, broken RV parked on a forgotten piece of land on the edge of Cedar Falls. Just 30 days earlier, Caleb still had a home, a job, and a sense of direction. But after years of fighting medical bills, losing his wife Sarah to cancer, and struggling to keep up with payments, everything collapsed. He lost his job, then his house, then his savings. That night when he tucked the twins into sleeping bags, the cold wind slipped through the cracks in the RV like a cruel reminder of how far they had fallen. He stared out of the cracked windshield at the empty road and whispered to himself, "What kind of father lets his kids live like this?" He didn't know the answer, but he also didn't know that this same broken RV, sitting in a silent corner of town, would soon become the center of something powerful. It would bring strangers together. It would turn a desperate situation into a story people would talk about for years. Caleb had spent the past month just trying to survive. Every morning he rode into town on his old motorcycle looking for work. No one was hiring a man with no address and no references. Some days he unloaded boxes at the feed store. Other days he cleaned gutters for old folks who paid him just enough to buy gas, oatmeal, and propane. At night, June painted bright flowers on the RV walls to hide stains left by people who lived there before. Olly spent hours under the vehicle pretending to fix things with a flashlight and a set of tools borrowed from a neighbor. To the children, this was a grand adventure. To Caleb, it was a slow heartbreak. Their world was shrinking. They had no electricity except a small generator that barely ran, no warm showers, no clear future. And yet every morning his children still smiled. They still believed their dad could fix anything. Caleb sat awake most nights, turning his late wife's wedding ring over in his hand, wondering if he was breaking the promise he made to her, to protect their children no matter what. What he didn't realize was that the smallest act from his kids was about to change everything. One spring morning, while Caleb was still half asleep, June and Olly quietly got to work. They took 3 old pieces of cardboard and Sarah's cracked watercolor set. By the roadside, they planted the signs like flags. "Help us build a home," one said in careful handwriting with flowers around it. Another said, "We have big dreams." The last one was simple, "Please stop." When Caleb saw what they had done, his face burned with embarrassment. He imagined strangers driving by and seeing their pain displayed for the world to judge. He almost ripped the signs down, but before he could, an old blue sedan slowed and stopped. Out stepped Martha Henley, a retired teacher with kind eyes and the kind of calm that silences a storm. She didn't look at them with pity. She smiled, held out a thermos of coffee, and said, "I saw your signs. I think they're wonderful." June proudly showed her the drawings she had made of the home they wanted to build. Olly talked about the solar panels he had sketched. Martha listened. Then she said, "I think Cedar Falls has been waiting for something like this." It was the first moment in a long time that Caleb didn't feel invisible. He felt seen. News about the signs spread through the small town faster than Caleb expected. Tom Bradley, the town's carpenter, came the next morning. He brought scrap wood and a wide grin. Then came Jim Watson with old solar panels he'd stored in his garage. Martha returned with neighbors carrying coffee, nails, and warm food. Suddenly, their broken RV wasn't just a shelter. It was a project. Tom found Caleb's old tool belt and handed it to him. Caleb hadn't worn it since the funeral. The leather was worn, but the fit was perfect. As he strapped it on, something inside him shifted. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving, he was building again. June's drawings turned into sketches. Olly measured everything with proud little hands. The town worked together, pouring a foundation, raising beams, repairing the RV. The noise of hammers and saws filled the air. The laughter of strangers became the sound of a new beginning. What started with 3 cardboard signs was turning into something real, something permanent. Within weeks, their story became the heartbeat of Cedar Falls. Volunteers arrived every day. People who hadn't spoken to each other in years worked side by side. Miguel, a 16-year-old architecture student, and his mom, Rosa, joined the team. Miguel helped Olly wire solar panels, and Rosa used Sarah's old recipe box to cook warm meals for everyone. June became the project's little designer, drawing new rooms every night. Reporters showed up. Donations came in. The local church gave them windows. Someone installed proper plumbing. For the first time since Sarah's death, Caleb wasn't looking backward. He was leading. He was building something not just for his kids, but with them. And all around, the town began to change too. Closed storefronts reopened. People smiled more. Strangers became friends over shared nails, bread, and dreams. What began as one family's struggle was becoming everyone's story. Just when the future finally felt solid, a black car pulled up. A man in a suit stepped out with a thick envelope in his hands. His name was Harrison Cole, and he worked for Mallory Development Corporation. Calmly, he told them the land had been bought 6 months earlier. In 60 days, the family had to leave. A commercial shopping center was planned for the exact spot where they had built their home. Caleb's hands shook as he read the papers. But what Harrison didn't know was that this place wasn't just a house anymore. It was a symbol, it was hope, and Cedar Falls was not going to give it up easily. Within hours, Martha had gathered the neighbors. Rosa called reporters. Miguel uploaded the story online. Ellen from the planning office started digging into the permits. By the next morning, the quiet lot wasn't quiet anymore. It was a gathering ground. The people of Cedar Falls stood behind the Hart family. They collected signatures, contacted the media, and found legal holes in the company's paperwork. What had begun with paint and cardboard had now turned into a fight for justice. Teenagers made videos that spread fast online. Crowdfunding campaigns raised money. People who had moved away came back to help. For Caleb, it was overwhelming. He had once believed he was a man who had lost everything. Now he stood at the center of a town united by hope. And as he watched June sketch their community on a new page of her notebook, Martha holding coffee, Tom holding tools, Rosa laughing, he finally understood. They weren't just fighting for a house. They were fighting for something bigger, for belonging for each other. Under the night sky, the solar panels glowed softly. The wind moved through the trees, but the air no longer felt cold. Caleb stood on the deck they had built with their own hands, looking through the new bay window at his children sleeping safely inside. He thought about how everything started: 2 kids, 3 signs, and a broken RV. And now here they were, a family surrounded by a community that had rediscovered its own heart. The fight wasn't over, but they were no longer alone. Sometimes hope doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers through the hands that build, the neighbors who show up, and the children who believe in what adults have forgotten. If this story touched your heart, don't just listen, share it. Someone out there needs to be reminded that hope can begin with something small. Subscribe for more real, powerful stories. Because sometimes one sign can build a home, and one home can change a town.